What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here, and welcome back to Ben Builds. Today is build day number 4. We're working again on the KV-1 Model 1939. As you can see here, we have done a little bit of work off camera. I have taken the liberty of taking some Gunzy Mr. Surfacer, masked it off, and given the edges a little bit of a cut metal look to them. We've put on the rear engine access hatch, and we got a couple of things we need to work on today. So my goal is to finish up the hull, get on the suspension, the front track tensioner. I want to get on the rear engine access hatches. I'm not going to do the engine vents because, well, I need to worry about those. They're brass, and I need to figure out how to do those. But I got to get the front driver's hatch in place and some of the odds and ends up on the front. So let's go ahead and also check out the turret. I have done a little work off camera, finished up the turret, and it sits pretty flush to where we want it there on the hull itself, looking pretty good. I do need to come back and put on the periscope covers there, but other than that, the turret's pretty much done. So let's go ahead and get started. So let us first start with the hatches for the rear engine decking. I'm just going to use my curved sprue cutters here, which are just some old fingernail clippers, and I'm just going to slice these off. Just going to clip them off. I like using the curved ones because it really works to get along those curved contoured lines here. Alright, and let's pull out my jeweler file. Like usual, let's go ahead and clean up a little bit of these parts here. Make sure they are looking good. There's no strange burrs or sprue attachment points left on here. Let's get it all nice and cleaned up. There is one little section on the bottom here that needs to be taken down a little bit. It's not too bad overall. Pretty nice. Alright, and I'm pretty sure these will go right on the back like that. Now there are 3 marks on the top of the hatch. So we're going to need to make sure that they are placed in the correct position. So the side with the 2 bolts are going to go up towards the top, towards the front of the hull. So let's get this glued on. A little bit of Tamiya extra thin cement. Let the capillary effect kind of spread it out around the lip there, and just place and press. Here we go, looking good. Now, word to the wise here, if you happen to put a little bit more glue than you need on there and you accidentally kind of move it up on top of the hatch, just go ahead and don't do anything crazy with it at the point. Just maybe dab it so it's not liquid everywhere. And then just let it be. Just leave it alone. You'll come back and you'll sand it over. Then after we've got it pretty much tacked in, we'll take a little bit of glue and place it around the edges here to make sure that it's all nice and glued down. We don't want to have our hatches popping off if we're doing any sanding or any work there at the back. So there we go. Looking pretty good. Alright, let's get the next one. Again, let's just check that. Make sure it fits well. Dry fit, always a good idea. Get the 3 dots lined up correctly. And then just a little bit of capillary effect on the glue. Just let it go ahead and seep into the connection points. There we go. Alright, looking good. I really like this Tamiya extra thin cement. You'll find as you kind of gain a little bit more experience with model building that you like certain glues for certain purposes. For example, the extra thin Tamiya cement works really well. As you can see here, glued on. Looks nice. Hatches went on extremely well. And if you had a little thicker cement, it wouldn't necessarily work as well. Alright, now we'll just go ahead and take care of the front here. This is the hatch for the driver and the machine gun operator up front here. Okay. Let's go ahead and clean up the insert a little bit here. Alright. This actually isn't too bad. It's a pretty good little piece. So first we got to put in the insert. insert goes right like that. There's no wrong direction. It's the same. You just make sure you have the top up and not bottom up. I'll put a little bit of glue here, and I'm going to put it on the inside there, inside a ring. There we go. And we're just going to place this right in there. Hold that down. Wipe a little bit of the excess glue. There you go. And we'll just go ahead and drop this hatch right down on top of it. Like I was saying before, you know, there's different types of glue. There's the extra thin Tamiya glue, which I really enjoy. But there's also testers. Testers makes a liquid cement which is a little thicker and doesn't dry as quickly. Works really well for link-by-link tracks because you can go ahead and glue up a track run, and then you can slowly mold them around the contours of the road wheels and return rollers. Works really well. Looks good. Alright, we are going to work now on the periscope covers for the turret. This is the last step we have to do on this turret before it's pretty much ready to go. I've already done one here. Here's the second one. These fit in these two little tabs up here, and you just press them in. You should hear a little bit of a click, and you know it's all the way in there. It's a very tight fit, so that's good. They won't fall out if you move the turret around. Now we'll just take a little bit of glue, again, extra thin cement. Just dab it at the end, let that glue seep into those cracks. Yeah. I'm going to do the rest of these off camera because it's a little boring for you to have to watch. But you can see just a little bit of glue right there on the edge and spread out evenly. A little bit of pressure, make sure it's glued down. Looking good. So I'll get the other two and then we'll be right back. Alright, finished off the turret. Now we're going to work on the hull here. I've done a little work off camera. I put on the front pistol port cover and the radio mast, and we're going to work now on the suspension. Now the suspension is really well done here on the KV-1 by Trumpeter. The suspension arms themselves are shaped in such a way that you can't really mess them up. If you attach them as they're supposed to be attached, everything pretty much lines up and is even. With kits like Eastern Express, they are not contoured, they are perfectly round, so you're going to have to kind of get them in there and level them out. These are more along the lines of self-leveling in a way. So, they can only really go in one direction. Okay, let's cut off one. See how these fit in here. There we go. Look at that. So we're going to have all of these to glue in and to clean up. We'll do this off camera because it's going to take a long time. But it'll lock into whatever position you put it in, which is really cool. It helps us in self-leveling all of our suspension. So we're going to probably have to clean up every single piece here. But we're going to just mount this one real quick so you can see here. Just a little bit of glue around the torsion bar here where it meets the hull. And press that in there, make sure it's good to go. So I'm going to hit the other ones and we will be right back. Okay, so I only have one left here to do. I've done all of them, and this will show you just my process on this. Again, we just press it into the hole. It only really goes one direction there. It's notched, so you can get a nice secure fit. But before we glue it, we want to take care of this mold seam that goes up the side of the suspension arm. So I'm just using my hobby knife. I'm just scraping, just kind of scraping the plastic off and rounding it out a little bit. We'll get it up at the top there. Predominantly, I'm scraping. I use the cutting blade on just a few little nicks here and there, but for the most part, I scrape them off. Then, using your jeweler file or your modeling file, sanding stick, whatever you prefer, we're just going to go over some of these areas and we're just going to clean them up a bit. Now, I'm only worrying about the top of the suspension arm. I'm not worrying about the bottom too much because you're not going to see it. It's going to be covered not only with the road wheel but also with the tracks, and it's going to be on the very bottom on the underside of the hull, so you're not really going to see it. And I don't think most people are going to go pick up your tank model to look underneath at those suspension arms. Even then, they'll be covered with the tracks. So we just place it in. A little bit of capillary effect with the glue there. There we go. Looking good. I like to use the glue on some of the parts I just sanded because it helps to kind of even them out. It is a technique worth definitely looking into. Alright, there we go. Suspension is looking great. Okay, so I've actually assembled off camera the 2 front idler wheels and the 2 rear drive sprockets. Really easy to assemble, good mold lines, very clean. But we need to do the road wheels now. And there are several parts to each road wheel. So let's go ahead and pull out that road wheel section. Again, it just comes in your basic Mylar bag, nothing fancy. Just open this on up. Alright. 2 sheets, one for the left side, one for the right side. Now, let's look here. We need the front piece, the inner road wheel, and then the rear piece. So let's see what we got here. Here's the rear piece. There's a front piece down here, and inner and outer road wheel here. Alright, cool. So it takes one of each of these pieces. So we're just going to take this and clip these off. Now I'm not going to clip them all off at one time, because then you're going to have a bunch of parts sitting around on your modeling table, and if you make a move or you nick or bump the table, they're going to go everywhere. So we're just going to remove pieces that we need to assemble one wheel. So get that out of the way. Here is the outside and the inside. And let's get the back of it. Pre-clip some of these. There we go. And we're going to need the front of it. There we go. Again, just pre-clip a couple of these. Alright, now we're going to have to clean them up a little bit. Let's see how these go together here. So just kind of a bit of a tight fit, but it should go together. There we go. Alright, easy enough. And it's going to have the front part. Oh, there we go. It's going to have the front part. This is going to fit down inside like that. Cool. And the rear part, there we go, just fits down in the back of that. Nice. Kind of a complicated wheel assembly. I can see why they went with the simpler wheels later on in the KV's life, because that would be a real pain. Alright, so we're going to take a little bit of glue and just let it kind of work its way in, down inside there. That's where the track guide teeth sit on the road wheels. Make sure everything is put together. Alright, now let's put on the front. We have to sand it down a little bit. Most of my work on tank models end up being where you see the parts. For example, here, this is the very front of the road wheel. You're probably going to see it. So I really kind of want to clean it up, make sure that it's pretty clean looking. I'm not going to do too much work on the back of the road wheels because there's no point in it. You're not going to see it. It's going to be hidden. Chances are it's going to be in a smaller display case, so you're not really ever going to see them. So I'm not going to worry too much about the back. But the front, I'm going to make sure that the front is looking good. Even though I'm most likely going to weather it up, doctor them up a little bit, maybe add some mud or some dirt or something. But still, just a few drops of glue. They're kind of small and a little slippery, but a couple of drops of glue. Let that capillary effect take hold there. Nice. Flip it over and let's put on the back. Again, I'm not going to do anything with the back. I'm going to test fit it, make sure it fits in there. I'm not going to sand off any flash or anything. A little bit of glue and we're good to go. Alright, so I have off camera completed all of the road wheels, and they're going to need to be cleaned up on the actual surface of the wheel itself, around the tread part, I guess you could say. So I'm going to put those aside and do those a little later off camera so I don't waste too much time. Now we're going to put together the front track tensioner. We're going to need to clean up some of these parts because there are a few areas that are pretty bad. It's a heavy line of flash that goes around each of these little parts here. These are the tensioner rods. What they do in the field is they would tighten or loosen these bolts here, which would then move the front idler wheel forward or backward, tensioning or loosening the track. So just use this kind of clean up a little bit here. Now again, you're not really going to see a lot of these, though the front and back, you know, top and bottom you won't see, but front and back you most likely will. So you're going to want to clean them up a little bit here. The edges too. You don't want them too gnarly there. A little bit of sanding just to kind of clean it up. That's looking pretty good. All right. Now the instructions say to mount this section without gluing it right on the top of it. I don't want to do that though, so let's clean off this section here and let's see how the best way of these going together. You don't always have to follow directions. I know why they're having you do it like that because I built a KV model before, so I understand the process, but I understand also there's a little bit of a better way to do it. If you're not supposed to glue them, it's a little difficult to work putting one piece on and holding that while putting the other piece on. So we're going to do it a different way. We're going to assemble the base of this tensioner. And we're going to glue it up, a little bit of extra thin cement. There we go. Alright, now I'm just going to press this together and we're going to hold it just a little bit here. Oh, they're also small, kind of slippery. Now we're going to slightly open up the very top and we're going to wedge this in between, making sure that the hole is facing the correct way to attach onto the locating pin on the side of the hole. Press again the bottom of it. A little bit of glue helps to smooth out everything. There we go. Press it one more time. You can see that the top part is still movable and the bottom part is glued. So now let's attach it to the front side of the hull. Now I've thrown on the road wheels just to get a little idea of how it's going to look, but these are not glued. These are just visual inspections. But it kind of gives you an idea. I don't have the idler wheels on, I just have the road wheels. But again, it kind of gives you an idea of how it's going to look when it's all kind of together. And we just want to put a little glue there so that it doesn't fall off, because this is the axle for the front idler wheel. So we just got to put a little bit of glue there on the side and on the top and back. There we go. So you get an idea how it's going to look. Alright, let's build the other side. Be right back. Alright, I've built the left side, and if you notice, there's a little bit of a problem here. It doesn't fit real well. So we're going to have to do a little bit of kit surgery to get this to fit. It just doesn't stick very well. So we're going to use our hobby knife. We're just going to stick it in that hole there, and we're just going to turn it around and just slice off all the imperfections on the inside, allowing this to fit in better. We might have to do it a few times though, just to check it. Alright, see, it's not quite where it needs to be. So again, I'm going to pull these road wheels off here. Again, they were just for looks. Put them off to the side. They need to be cleaned up and doctored up a little bit. Alright, now again, X-Acto knife, kind of scrape the inside of the locating hole. There we go. I don't want to take too much out because we still want it to be snug so it doesn't fall out. But this should be good. Let's test it. Yep, that's it, right there. So we're going to attach the tensioning bolt and attach the axle. There we go. Nice. Alright, I've just got a little bit of glue there. Go ahead and secure that into position. There we go. Alright. There you have it. A little bit of pressure, make sure it's all snug and tight in there. And looking good. Alright, so for the last little step for today, we're going to shim out the turret ring. And the reason I'm doing this is because I came up with an idea to lower the turret so it would sit flush closer to the hull. And to do that, I removed the hull turret ring. Now, you could have removed the hull turret ring, or you could remove the actual turret ring itself on the turret. I decided not to do that, though. Of course, that means that the turret doesn't fit tightly into the turret ring. So instead of doing anything crazy with it, I've decided to shim out the turret just by taking this and just gluing strips of styrene in place. As you can see, it's going to need a couple of layers. So I'm going to do that off camera, and we'll be back once I kind of figure out how many we need. I'm guessing probably about 4 pieces of styrene each, but let's go ahead and let's find out. Okay, I have done the front, back, and the sides, and about 4 strips of styrene glued together is about right. It gives it a nice, secure feel to it. 1 more might do it, but 4 is definitely where we're going to stop for today. I'm going to look into my references and figure out what to do with a few more of these parts, but I think we have a good jump on the tank. Tank's coming together real well. As you can see, I've got the light on there, the horn, all the hatches are on. The turret periscopes are on, the front drive periscope's on. Everything's looking really good. So let's go ahead and pull that aside. We're going to probably work a little bit off camera on these, on the engine decking grills and on the locating pins here in the back. We've got to figure out how to do that. We're also going to work a little bit on the road wheels, cleaning up some of these edges. There's a couple of burrs left on the road wheel surface, which we need to have removed because we want them to look good. So that's the plan for off-camera work. Join us next time for part 5 of Ben Builds. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.